Welcome to the Champagne Rugby podcast. Today we have the honour of speaking with a true legend of the Rugby Sevens world, Lote Raikabula. With an illustrious career spanning over a decade, Lote played in more than 60 tournaments for the All Black Sevens from 2006 to 2016, securing a victory in an impressive 20 of those tournaments. A titan of the Sevens circuit, Lote boasts an extraordinary record, including 5 Sevens World Series titles, a Rugby World Cup Sevens Championship, and 2 Commonwealth gold medals. Join us as we delve into his remarkable journey, his insights into the game, and his reflections on a career defined by excellence. Lote, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. Yeah, thanks for that introduction. Appreciate it.
Well, it's very much deserved, I have to say. You've got an incredibly illustrious career, to say the least, with many achievements and something some could argue is one of the greatest Sevens players of all time.
Yeah, thank you. I'm quite humbled by that. Those lovely words. I did that, and I was very blessed to play with some really good people, and without those boys as well, and lots of good coaches. Without them, I wouldn't get all those rewards and those titles that, as you mentioned.
So, where are you based right now, Lote?
Yeah, right now I'm in Japan. I'm in 2 hours up north from Fukuoka. So Fukuoka is probably the biggest city close to us, in a small so-called fishing village called Nagato. Not Nagoya, Nagato. Nagoya is bigger. Nagato is really small village. We've got a women's sevens team here based in Nagato, and so I'm here now coaching them, and this is my second year.
And how's it going so far? Have you enjoyed the experience?
Yep, yeah, I loved it. I love coaching. I love helping people, and to see them progress and develop as a person as well. That gives me a lot of satisfactions, and it's a massive reward for me as a coach. Now looking at compared to back in the days when I used to play. So that's and I was very fortunate as well to actually jump in and know what I wanted to do after playing rugby, and yeah, so coaching in Japan, it's awesome in terms of the resource we have here compared to Thailand. When I was with Thailand, the players are very blessed. We've got our own indoors facilities. We've got our own gym, our own clubhouse, and also our own rugby pitch. So we can access it at any time. So that's the beauty about coaching here in Japan compared to Thailand.
And how did you sort of get into coaching from, you obviously had your career playing sevens and then retiring was it just before the Olympics you retired? How did you then transition from playing to coaching?
Started way back. I think it was back in 2011 where 2011, 2012, where I realized I had some potential in this part of the game, which is helping out people. And it started off with my 2 brothers. So they were playing in their sevens. They were getting ready for sevens tournament, and they had so in Wellington, we live in Wellington. I've got three brothers, and 2 of them were in this team. It's called the Fiji Warriors. So they were training, and they didn't really have. So my 2 brothers was pretty much coaching the team and helping them train and stuff. And we had a manager who also, the owner of the team, lives in Palmerston North. So most of the boys based in Wellington, and my 2 brothers were coaching them and helping them out and playing as well. So they asked me a few times to come out after returning back from the World Series to get in there and try and help them. So which I did, and saw the progression from that time, and to see those boys, which a lot of them kick on and played for Samoa. Some came in and played for us. in the sevens for the All Black Sevens, and some represented Tonga. To see those boys progress to the next level really gives me a satisfaction, and that's how I quickly worked it out that this is what I want to do after playing.
Giving back and helping develop people on a personal basis. That's
Yeah,
yeah. I I also have been doing a lot of traveling through Asia, and one of the things that, because I'm able to go to many countries doing filming and stuff, one of the things I wanted to pick up was some sort of like coaching qualifications, so I can
yeah,
like give clinics to random, well, just
yes,
people in remote places of, I don't know, let's say
yeah,
the Philippines or India or something like that. You
yeah.
you were out in Sri Lanka for a bit though, right?
Yeah. So I was in Sri Lanka for 2 years, so pretty much straight after the Olympic preparations and all that. So I left my first proper professional gig was in Sri Lanka. So I
Yeah.
was in Sri Lanka for 2 years, coaching a school up in Kandy, 15s rugby. So yeah, I was a head coach up there, and I don't know if you know Sri Lanka, but it's actually domestic competition in any sport. Rugby is bigger than cricket. Yeah, and especially yeah, everyone, all Sri Lankans in the world know this, and those who have been to Sri Lanka and lived in Sri Lanka, they will also tell you this, that school rugby is huge. School rugby is massive. And I was up in Kandy with Trinity College. So Sangakkara, the famous cricketer, that's his school. So yeah, I was very fortunate to meet him on when I arrived into Kandy, into the school. So that's how big, huge. So he greeted me, waited for me at the school assembly hall. It's massive. It's massive. So I was there for 2 years, and we were really, really close. On my first year, we were really close. We just missed out in the final. The last time they did the run like we did, unbeaten, was back in 1987. So we were the ones that were coming through to break that record, and we lost it right on that the final game. So there was a lot of good things, a lot of learnings as well. I took out while coaching in Sri Lanka. So I made a lot of good friends there, and definitely cherished those moments.
What is rugby like in Sri Lanka?
It's yeah, like I said, it's massive. It's a lot. They're really passionate, and they actually show it, which is why it's big. Like in New Zealand, we are passionate, but we don't really show that much of that passion, to outside when you're watching the game. So it's huge. They put a lot of money into it. They invested a lot of money into it. I remember when how I got that gig. I was still when we were playing on the World Series circuit, 2014, 2012, 13, 14, 15. We after the World Series, we usually go to Sri Lanka and play for 2 weekends. So it's almost like the IPL format of a couple of foreigners in a team, and on the field you're allowed to have 3 foreigners and 4 local boys, so Sri Lankan boys, and yeah, so that's how we help develop their rugby, and they definitely got better, and they took out a few titles in the Asian series, men, especially men competition. So they were really, really good around that time. So yeah, it was huge. People don't see, but a lot of big names, Dan Norton, DJ Forbes, Tomas Ithama, Tim Mickelson, Waisaki Naolo, just to name a few, and Samoan boys like Levena, Lepasa, lots of the boys. Brycey Him, now center for the Blues. Charles Pietau, now playing here in Japan. We were all there. We all played, and yeah, we all played in Sri Lanka in those years. Yeah.
That is quite crazy. Some real
Yeah.
stellar names, eh? Um,
Yeah.
what? How does rugby in Sri Lanka sort of compare to, you know, you mentioned sort of the fever for rugby is very high. They like to show it. Would you say it's sort of similar to Fiji in a way? How passionate rugby players are in Fiji and showing? that side of
Yeah.
sport?
Yep, yeah, it is in certain ways. With Fiji, the ultimate is the national team. That's like it's same as in New Zealand. Yeah, in Fiji, it's wearing that white jersey it's the ultimate. In Sri Lanka, it's the grassroots level that's big. Whereas Fiji, there is a little bit of a pathway to wear that white jersey, but there's a lot of there's a lot of uh, self-driven motivations in Fiji as to why you play the game. Whereas in Sri Lanka, it was different. Was from the school, and then from there you go to club rugby, and as long as you in the premier grade in club rugby, that's it, you're satisfied. And to take it to the next level, they don't really care. Whereas Fiji, it's going past that club competitions or going past those sevens tournaments in the villages to get to the next level. That's huge, and that's probably the difference in Sri Lanka and in Fiji.
And how was rugby growing up in Fiji when you were there?
Yeah, we moved to my family moved over to New Zealand back in 2000. So I was young, finished my studies and school in Wellington. But when I was young, yeah, growing up in Fiji before we moved over, oh, there was, it was the ultimate dream to wear that white jersey. And either sevens or 15s, don't care. But sevens was probably the fastest way to get there. And you see superstars like on TV, and then they do come out. When you go to the markets, supermarkets, or you see them around. Like Super is not that big, so you go to the one corner of the town, you will see one superstar, and you go to the other corner, you'll see another one, and just admiring and looking how they set up and well respected, and how good they were. So that really drives me to try and wear that white jersey. I had that opportunity, so we moved over to New Zealand. With school and rugby, and things started to change. The drive to wear the white jersey started to change, and looking it into the black jersey. And I got the opportunity to play for Fiji in 2002. I was over in Dubai with an invitational side, and we were playing the British Army in the final, curtain raiser for the World Series. And the Fijian team had a few injuries. The ones on the circuit, they had a few injuries. So they saw me and they asked me after our final if I was interested in playing for them. And one of the boys that was playing for Fiji back then we used to play rugby together back in Fiji. Cyril Ngelevuki, he also played over in England for the Chiefs. So so he came and talked to me that the manager and the coach were really interested in me joining them, and I was so excited. I was only young thing, really excited, and back to the hotel, called my family and mom and dad. Mom was so happy, but dad didn't really support that idea, and I went and say, sorry, I'm not available, to the Fiji coach and manager. And I talked to dad when I got back home in New Zealand, and dad said, there's a lot of boys in Fiji that is their opportunity to set themselves up for their family. And if you join the Fiji team, you're taking one of those opportunities away from one of those poor boys in Fiji trying to break through into the arena. So that's how I look at it. And yeah, I really do hope people in Fiji can understand why I chose to play for New Zealand. It was one of those decisions.
Did you have the opportunity to play for New Zealand before knowing that, or did you make that decision without any guarantee that you would play for New Zealand?
I had the opportunity. So when I went to Dubai, so the team that went to Dubai was almost a team that was nominated by Sir Gordon Tietjens at that time. So we were the one. So we had the nationals competition in Palmerston North in 2000, and we won it. I was only 18 when we took it out, and so there was the first time ever Wellington won the first time ever Wellington win the nationals competition. So I got recognized from there, and even in the national final was pretty cool because I used to watch all these legends as well of the game in New Zealand. When I was in Fiji, I used to watch Fiji and New Zealand in the final, Hong Kong Sevens final, and when we were playing in 2002 in the tournament, we played Biff Plenty in the quarterfinal. I remember Liam Mason, Matua Parkinson, all these boys in the Biff Plenty side. We beat them. We only had two boys in the New Zealand setup back then, Roy Kinikin Lau and Tafai Yowasa. No, sorry, Roy Kinikin Lau got selected after this national. So we had only Tafai Yowasa. So then we played Auckland in the semi-final. We had no names, no names, just the boys from Wellington that trains hard, trying to crack it into the rep side in 15s and in 7s. So we played Auckland in the semi-final. They had Justin Wilson, Ilesa Tanivula, all the names, Amasio Valance, Raoma, the playmaker, Oriniai. So they had all the stars. So we beat them in the sudden death in the semi-final versus Auckland, and then we played the final, and couldn't, just the stars, keep coming, and we played in the final. We played against North Harbour. They had Nick Evans, Anthony Titavaki, Eric Rash, so Rudy Wolf, the winger, Chris Smiley, the halfback for the Hurricanes Blues. So we had all these names, and I was it was funny. Before all these games, I looked over, in the tunnel, looking at them. Oh, Jesus, these are the ones I used to watch on TV, like just last year. And now I get to play against them. So, I was excited about the challenge. And then we won the tournament. We beat Harbour convincingly. And then I got recognized from there. And Roy Kinikin-Lau got picked up by Titch. Tafayo was already in the squad, and I was another one that got picked up too. But because I was still young, then New Zealand had a really, really good team then. So I couldn't really cracked the main squad, so I was put into this other team, the invitational team that goes over to Dubai, and so I was in the frame then, but Fiji came along, so I think I made the right decision. Didn't take someone's opportunity in Fiji, and also looking at it now to play that long for New Zealand, I don't know if I would have we would have done that for Fiji.
I mean, hindsight is great, right? Because we can look back and say, yes, that was incredible career. Who knows what could have happened? But at the time, not knowing that you didn't know you were going to play for the All Blacks in the sevens. So that leap of faith truly was very noble decision. But if you didn't make the All Blacks sevens team, you could have looked back and said, "God, that's probably the dumbest decision I ever made," right?
Yes.
So it's like a double-edged sword in many ways, but luckily it did turn out really good, and we're here now. What was sort of the turning point then to join the Sevens All Blacks team, and what was the moment in your head or succession of events that you think really nailed down your spot in the All Blacks Sevens team?
I didn't make my debut until 2006. So, and this is probably good for kids or youth that are listening out there that is trying to make it. Sometimes I was a little bit impatient. So I 2002 I was in the picture. I didn't play for Fiji. 2003. And then in 2004, just as I was coming back into the setup, I got injured, and I torn my hamstring quite bad. So it was really, really bad. That put me out for a year. So it wasn't a smooth sail to to wear that black jersey. So I struggled for about a year, and I jumped into things after rugby, which is study. I did a bit of engineering, got all my tickets as a welder. So I did all this stuff just to keep me going, and actually a bit of patience for my body, and and listen to people, because after I got recognized at very young age, I thought that I was bulletproof. I could go through pain and I could play through injuries, but as you progress, you actually understood the importance of looking after your body. Now I can't go and play top rugby there and the next day go and play a sevens tournament just because my mates is saying, "Oh, you're the man, come jump along," and everyone wants to see you. So I had that attitude and I had that ego that really set me back. So I for 2 years I looked at, it was good. I actually looked at myself properly and realized how things I need to get it right. Also, I'm a Christian, and yeah, God, I'm a big faith believer in God, and that's pretty much how I got myself sorted, and actually settled down to launch into a career like I had. And from that 2006, we played at the Nationals. The names got called out. Ever since then, I didn't look back. But it took me those 2 years to get a really good foundations and appreciations of things, respectful, listening, and learning, and stay humble. So all those things came together, and my career took off. And how I did it for that so long, it was all the stuff that, yeah, as mentioned.
It's really quite inspiring because a lot of people, whatever challenges or tribulations they're trying to go for, whatever goals they have that they go through in life, they will have these ups and downs, and times might go really good and they're going up the roller coaster up the hill and it's looking really nice. And then there's other times when they are down and they do need to dig in their heels, find that inner, but sort of go in themselves and figure out who they are. And it's sort of like almost a
Yes.
spiritual journey in many ways. And those 2 years, which I can imagine for a lot of people that might be going through a tough time, you're building
Mm.
the foundations
Yeah.
for the man or the woman or the person that you want to become, that
Yeah.
then will project you and have those strong foundations. So when times do get tough again, you can look back on those tough times and say, I went through that,
Yeah.
and now look where I am, look how far I've come. I just need to
Mm.
keep the patience and carry on with what I'm doing. So that story really resonates with me. That's really it's realistic, it's life, it's inspiring.
Thank you.
So thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
then I'm just gonna. So 2006 was, you won the first Commonwealth Games in Australia, right, with the New Zealand
Yes.
squad. How was that?
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. Was the I mean, it was quite emotional for me and my family, because that was the year I also made my debut. And like I said, I had a lot of challenges, like with injuries and getting to know myself better and learning as I go, and to crack that. So we had the World Series going, and then we had the Commonwealth game came in right in the middle of the World Series. So it was quite stressful for the organizations and also for our coach, because for the organizations for New Zealand Rugby, we need, so as you can see in that team, we had some boys that were playing Super Rugby. So they made themselves available, and Teach, the coach, went in there and selected them. So, and, going back to my stories, watching all these superstars, playing against them. And now I'm in the room, just made my debut in 2006, playing sevens on the circuit. And then now to get selected to go on my first year, to get selected to go to the Commonwealth Games. Wow. It's the pinnacle at that time before the Olympics came along, So, and in New Zealand, for us, those Commonwealth medals is huge. It's big for us, and to win gold in that in 2006. Looking at the teams that played there, it's like the top six of the teams on the World Series. So it wasn't easy. It was hard, and yeah, for me to be part of it was, I'm grateful and also blessed as well to be in that team.
And you did it twice.
Yeah, did it twice.
Well.
And, yeah, one was I was celebrating and like stoked about it, brought the medal back home. And that was me. I was happy with that. I was done, I got a gold medal now. Yeah, see you later. Whatever happens, happens. And then roll out close to 2010. Oh, that excitement came again. And the coach actually put a bit of focus attention to those that have done it, because a lot of the boys after 2006 they've moved on. So I stayed on, as it was me, Liam Mason, and yeah, so it was just me and Liam Mason was the only one that survived from that 2006. So the team was kind of built around our knowledge and our success and what we had that time. So yeah, so from there, then he kicks in. I think the difference between looking at that, like now looking at it again, it's really actually, yes, you have a plan, but the moments when you're doing stuff, it's actually trying to nail it and giving it all 100%. Because sometimes we can have this plan, like for this and that. But if we don't get these steps along the way, we won't get to that big one. So that's what I've learned during this time as I was playing. And then goes into, so we did that. We won another gold medal. And then after, from 2012, around 2011, 12, I started to see the side of the games differently to a young player that's coming through. For them, they're looking at it, okay, this tournament, another tournament. That was them. That was their plan throughout the year. For me, I think, I believe why I stayed in there for so long, and because you have to perform. You have to perform, otherwise you're gonna get dropped. So for me to stay in there for that long consistently, I was focusing on game by game. I don't care about the actually didn't really care about the titles. Those were just, flows in. So I was really focusing on my job, my preparation, my role, do it very, very well. And if I can be the best in my position after the tournament, that's me. I'm happy with that, and the players can see that, and then it pushes them to do their job very well rather than telling others what to do. So that was me, game by game by game. Oh yeah, after the tournament, gee whiz, I survived this with no broken legs, no broken arm. Then we go again, another tournament, another preparation. Then we go just game by game. It's how I probably my little so-called secret how I made it and played for so long.
How do you think the sevens circuit and the sevens world has sort of changed and evolved from when you started in 2006 to then beyond towards just before they launched the sevens in the Olympics?
Yeah, I mean, lots of people, you would see on televisions and stuff. A lot of people talked about, the investment that goes into the game. So especially like in America, as soon as it is part of the Olympic sport, the investment from the countries to put in. I mean, the style of the game still similar. The style of the game is still very similar. But it's just the biggest change that has moved up now is the executions of the execution under fatigue or execution clearly under pressure. So those are the probably the difference for me now compared to back then. Back then we would go for maybe 3-4 rucks and it's a turnover and we go. Nowadays it takes a lot of effort to get the ball back if you're defending. So it's working out. So that would probably be like now someone said, oh, everyone is so good. It's actually what is good. Everyone is understanding now, the importance of having the ball and keeping the ball, and also executing under pressure. Whereas we know using your defense system, and when it's time to attack, staying in your structure and staying in your place. So that's probably the difference between back then and now. The game is still very similar. Everyone still try to attack the space and utilize the space. That's still the same now. But it's that one it's probably the difference one is who can execute better.
And then in 2016, you retired just before the Olympics. What may I ask? What sort did you have aspirations to go to the Olympic Games, or what sort of happened?
Yes and no. Like I said to you, it was just game by game, eh?
Yeah.
And then survive that, then another tournament, then back again, game by game. Yes, actually the hunger, the hunger to keep wearing the black jersey faded off in one tournament, and I think was in South Africa, and that hunger to, you know, I just stopped feeling nervous about actually going out to play, and that was quite sad. But I looked at it now. I think I made the right decision because when I left the team, we were still on a high, and I'm glad I did that because I left and that team was in a good space. So that's probably the reasons why. Olympics is, yes, it's huge. It's an Olympics, but I thought I did. I did myself good and did a good run to get there and whatever. Like I'm always, for me, it's always about the team. It's always about the team. It's not about individual trying to collect many trophies and medals. I wasn't that type of person, and I don't like it when in our team when I was playing in the sevens. I hate to see guys that it's all about themselves, and whoever plays with me and whoever was in that time when I was playing, they know me. I was almost like a bad cop. So in our leadership group, I was the one that goes around and put people in their place. Our captain don't want to do that, and we had Tomasi Dama, who was more like a tactical, driven, drive our team around. And we have so four of us: DJ Forbes, Tomasi Dama, and Tim Mickelson. So Timmy floats in between because Timmy came in later into the sevens team. So he was always good between the old boys and the young boys, and Timmy just do his job and actions, and everyone follow. Whereas I float in between. I can be can be a bit of an idiot and to bring the teams together, but I can also tell people in their face if they need to pull their weight in and do their job. So yeah, that was one of my things in the team. It just happened naturally. No one tell us how to do it. It just happened naturally. And then when we finished, we had the mental skills coach that came in, and he put all these things in place like that, and then we looked at it. Holy moly, this is the stuff that we were doing, but no one teaches us. We just do it naturally using our strength and identifying what we're capable of doing.
Which players in the current sevens circuit impresses you the most at the moment?
It's a tough one. Argentina has got a few, got a few boys there. Yeah, it's a tough one. I won't go past our boys. I won't go past our boys. It's just because they've done it for so many years, and that's for me. That's what counts. It's you see in sevens. People come in and go like 4 years, probably maximum, and they leave. Whereas you see the New Zealand crew now, you still see Sam Dixon, Tim Mickelson, still doing the job. Those boys impressed me. We do all the hard yards back in the days, and I'm really surprised their hip joint is still intact with all the amount of running we used to do.
What's your thoughts on bringing sort of big players like Antoine Dupont and Michael Hooper into the sevens circuit? Do you think it helps grow the sport?
Oh, for sure, for sure. It raised the bar, not only for the sport in general, like on the World Series, but actually the sport in their country, like in France and also in Australia. They're very important, and it's if you look at it deeply, it's not so much just raising the bar of the sport. It's actually giving a bit of hope to a young, a young Australian boy out there or a French boy out there. They don't have much that they can actually, this can, it's an attention where they can see, wow, yeah, they played the game, but they never win. Like France, an example, like 19 years. So they never really. So if you have a young boy on the street just walking around or soccer, football, and maybe walked into a shop and saw a newspaper and saw the French rugby team lifting a title, and that for me is huge. That actually can change someone's life. One of these kids that don't have much. So that's for me is bigger than actually just raise the bar in the World Series.
Do you think that the sevens series as a whole, because that's only every 4 years that, I mean, in 2016 we had Sonny Bill come across, Brian Habana came across for an Olympic trial. Do you think sort of the sevens as itself, back in the day you had all the big names like yourself, DJ Forbes, Collins and Gira, Dan Norton, Carlin Niles. Do you think that the sevens circuit is lacking some of those bigger marketable characters in some ways?
Yes and no. I mean, the 15s is probably the ultimate, because like in terms of like that's where the money is, and also the like ranking, world ranking. So I mean, it's a different when you see those boys as well. Like I'm really surprised with France. How the impact of Dupont when he came on. It's a different ball game. It's not just a rugby player. It's a totally different. I call sevens like a total athletes. You have to be strong, fast, like powerful, fit, everything. You have to tick the boxes for good, like a superhuman. That's what sevens do. Yeah. So it's an athlete. You have to be an athlete. So that's why, yes, you have a profile that comes in, but most of those boys are not really successful when they jump into sevens. But in terms of you raise the profile back in their country for sure, definitely. But it's always going to be a challenge because 15s is a bigger program, and there's a lot more opportunities in 15s than in sevens.
Do you think sevens could ever be bigger than 15s?
It can be, but it might upset a few old, old school people out there, because they still don't look at sevens as a tradition. Like because 15s is quite long, and you sit and enjoy yourself, and so it's done in a tradition way. Sevens is it's more of a youth and energized event or entertainment. So it can be, it definitely can grow. And now you can see after the World Series, there's certain tournaments here and there. Like now in Japan, as an example, this is like a little mini series here in Japan, which I'm coaching here. And after this, there's the one in America that they also have like a 4 tournaments there where they do very similar. So it's growing, but yeah, it's growing. It's actually growing, but it will take off, I believe, in a few years' time.
So I sort of, one of my main objectives or life missions is to grow rugby
Yeah,
throughout the world, and that's why I came out to Asia. Spent the last 6 months here. One thing
nice.
I've noticed is sevens is actually quite a bit more popular among
Yep.
Asian nations than it is than 15s, and I think that comes down to one is sort of a skill set level. I think it's with 15s you've got to be a lot bigger, and a lot of Asians statistically shorter than a lot of, let's say, South Africa or England, for example. And also resources. It's a lot easier to put resources into a sevens side than it is a 15 side, because you've got half the amount of players. And then the final thing is Olympics. A lot of countries, for example, China, they're investing very heavily into their sevens setup. And so club rugby for 15s in China is really doesn't receive a lot of funding, but the sevens setup receives a lot of funding. Similar in Thailand, right? There's a lot of emphasis and focus on the sevens circuit for the Asian nations, because it's I don't know, I feel like sevens in Asia could be a lot bigger than 15s in the long run.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. They also, I mean, sevens, they also have the profile of the players, like a good sevens player. They're good, like agility. They're good on their feet, and they also, low center of gravity is quite good. Skill sets, it's good. So, and also, like you said, they don't have the size and the height of those 15s players that you need to dominate the game. So yes, it is here in Asia, and this place is perfect for sevens rugby. It's just that for them to take it to the next level, to understand how to win, and also how to be successful, to separate that with the culture, because this part of the world is actually quite, the culture is still very, very strong. It's for them to separate that. I think that is the big challenge. There's a little bit. I mean, Fiji. I'll give you an example. Fiji is it's a classic example where they separated the culture and the game, and that's why they're so successful with the Olympics. They brought in Ben Ryan, who's from England, came in there and coached them, and then after that, Gareth Baber jumped in. But now they've got Osea Kolinisau. It's this one is it's new to them. Osea Kolinisau coaching them. This is almost like a foreigner. I mean, it's a foreign state for them, because it's an unknown. They've never had a Fijian guy taking them to an Olympic. So they're all nervous. I'm telling you the truth now. They're all nervous. They don't know what to expect. Whereas when you have the two foreign coaches before, they were so confident, we're going to win it. We've done it before. So if you see that the reasons why they got them in is because the decision is made by these two gentlemen, Gareth and Ben. The Fijians that goes in there in the past, you don't pick the team. The team has been picked for you. And you are the junior, or you looked up to your uncle who's the chief, and your uncle sit in that board. Your uncle give you the names, and then off you go. You can't talk. You can't select the players. So that's the challenge they've had in the past, and they've identified it. Full credit to them. Ben Ryan came in, very successful. Gareth Baber came in, also very successful. I'm a good mate with Oscar Osea Kolinisau, and also his assistant. I do wish them, all the best, and I wouldn't want to say I hope it works, because my heart is still with New Zealand, and a good mate of mine is also the head coach for New Zealand, and I'm backing them 110% to get the gold medal in the Olympics.
So I was going to ask, what's your predictions for the Olympics?
Well, Argentina was, that's a challenge with Argentina. It's if they can stay in the fight and last, because when you lead the pack, everyone tries to get you, like everyone will chase you, and not just one team. It's everyone. Okay, everyone is putting their focus on you. I don't know. I think they came out too early. I think Argentina came out too early and showed everything. I'm not surprised if the next tournament, if they Singapore next weekend, I'm not surprised if they'll get beaten. Fiji, Fiji is always dangerous and never get underestimated, because they play for different cause, Fiji. So when they get it right, it's probably no one can beat them. New Zealand, New Zealand, I think, has found their rhythm or why they can win tournaments. I'm not gonna tell, I'm not gonna say to anything to the viewers. I'll keep it quiet to myself. What made them good, so good? So I saw that in Hong Kong, so they are back, and they'll be very, very tough to beat. Uh, so it will be, yeah, between one of those, like Argentina, Fiji, New Zealand, and I'm also looking at the repechage or the other qualifications coming from the other side. South Africa. South Africa is also going there to try and qualify. I remember the Olympics in Tokyo. France did the same thing. They went to the repechage and they qualified from there. Then they reached the final. And they got silver medalists losing to New Zealand. So those things, and that's the beauty of the sevens. South Africa, those rugby nations, they are the ones that probably got a good front runners at getting these medals.
Do you think? What about the women's predictions?
Now, yeah, like as you can see, now the World Series, you got Australia and New Zealand tied at the top. Then you have USA, then you have the others follow suit. So it's a tight one, this one. I think after next weekend's tournament in Singapore, that's when we'll have a clear indications about with the favorites for the Olympics. But looking at the squad, New Zealand squad, they should win the gold medal at these Olympics. It's not just the starting seven, it's the whole entire squad. They've done a good jobs there with Corey and also Edwin Cocker and Roscoe and all those boys. So they're going to be very tough to beat. They got a big pool of players in a really, really strong squad. So that creates a lot of competition in the squad, and that brings out the best out of them. So I think New Zealand will probably be the favorites in the women's category.
Something I noticed you said previously about South Africa, New Zealand. You said the words these big rugby playing nations, and one of the things I kind of wanted to touch on is with growing the sport, it's got to be competitive across all the nations. What do you think could be done to sort of bring up the level of some of the other countries, especially since you've done coaching in Sri Lanka, you've done coaching in Thailand, you've done coaching that you're now in Japan, in this sort of Asian market, let's say. What do you think is like maybe some of the things that could grow the sport? Because ultimately, I don't think it's sustainable long run if we've only got maybe 5 or 6 nations that are always dominating the sport. I think if we had a model that was so competitive, you had no idea who was going to win. Similar, like in football, for example, the market of the game is going to grow massively, and it will be a lot more inclusive, whether that is through sevens or 15s or whatnot. What do you think sort of needs to be done?
I mean, World Rugby is doing a good job at sifting the tournaments around, like promoting the games. And like, as you can see this year, they went to Perth to grow the game over there, because it's like Australian football is massive in that part of Australia. So World Rugby is doing its best. And then this year, the last tournament, it's in a new place as well, or new location. So there, yeah. So the game has been moved around, which is good to grow. But I think it comes down to the organization. So it comes down to the rugby union, or the office, how they can grow their grassroots, to spread the game out there to the communities. It's how they promoted the game. I think World Rugby can only do so much to keep the game going at the top, but promoting it, moving it all over the world. But the union, like the actual rugby union, it's them need to bring in like a proper, resource coaches and provide like a right people and put them in the right people in the right place. I think it's very important. And then from there, it goes out into the community. Because what I noticed, what happens in Thailand is we shortcut that part of the game. We went straight to the national side, but then when you build this national side and you have 10 really good ones, and then now when they moved on or injuries kicks in, you look down the pathways, there's no pathways, there's no system that comes through, because they need to look at themselves and plan it out in long term. Most of these unions are trying to do like what Australia do, New Zealand do, South Africa do, Argentina do, or France, England, by just going, we need to win, we need to win. This part of the world, they need to look at, yes, we need to win, but how do we win? What's the pathways? What's the players, the feeder that comes through that provide for the national teams, or the program, the development program there. I think China is a classic example with the women's team. They went to Hong Kong, they played there, they win their competitions between Hong Kong, Thailand, but it's not. I mean, now they're leading the Challenger Series unbeaten and really winning very well too. Chinese women's team. For me, it was that weekend in Hong Kong. They had a national team that smashed everyone, playing against Thailand and Hong Kong. Yes, the opposition is not as strong, but I saw what was happening around it. They had another two teams that were playing in the Hong Kong Tens. Okay, so Hong Kong Tens, two teams from China. And these two teams, they both make it to the final. In that competition, the Hong Kong Tens competition, it's not easy. You have teams from Japan that goes in there and participate, really good teams like the Tokyo Phoenix, and then you have the team like the Samurai, the Shogun. Most of those girls in there, they played for Australia, and they in the Australian setup, the Shogun. The Shogun lost to one of these Chinese club team. And I checked with who's a good friend of mine. He's the defense coach for China. I messaged him and, hey, do you know the club playing? And he told me that's all our development players. So China has worked it out now. You have a bigger pool that spreads out into the community, feeds it through, and then you get the creams at the top, and they're smashing teams. So I'm not surprised if China turn around and beat a couple of these teams on the World Series when they go into their last tournament for the promotion and relegation competition. So they've already beaten Japan last year with the Asian game. They beat Japan in the final, and then I know Japan beat them in the final for the Olympics. But even that game, Japan was really lucky. China was winning and Japan came back. So they will be tough to beat. China will be tough to beat, and China gives you a good example of working at that grassroots level and try and get the community and get the kids to play the game, and that channels it up to the main team, which you can see Tens tournament, two Chinese team in the final, Hong Kong Tens. That's never happened before.
Something I find interesting looking at sort of studying the different unions and how they allocate their funding is a lot with the women's game. It's a lot easier to sort of break into the rankings a lot quicker, and it's a lot less structured. Let's say it's easier. Let's say take the Chinese women's example. They've invested into the Chinese women's team quite heavily, and their return on investment has been a lot higher because it's a lot easier for women's teams to sort of break into the top 10 than it would be for the men's that's already established after decades, if not centuries, of rugby going on. And from my travels through Southeast Asia making documentaries, what I noticed was lots of the rugby in these smaller communities is actually being driven by women more so than the men. In Vietnam, for example, they've got one team that's fully registered Vietnamese, and the whole community is all driven by the women. And the reason that was there was a group called Pass It Back that's like a sort of a child fund organization, and they go to countries and they put in place structures to develop sports to help develop communities. And so they went to Vietnam, and they went to this remote village, and they tested, I think, 3 different sports with the community. I think they did rugby, football, and maybe they did basketball or something. And what was interesting from that case study was all of the women gravitated towards rugby because they saw it as a gender neutral sport, whereas they saw football, and I don't remember I think it was football and basketball. I think they saw football and basketball as male dominated sports. So the women naturally gravitated towards rugby because it was a gender neutral sport. And I think there was a similar occurrence happened in Laos. And Lao rugby is actually taken off quite a bit now because they've now got like I think a domestic league that's started up, and I think they've got 5 or 6 teams playing in that for the women's. I'm not sure how much they've got for the men, but the Lao guys they've done a really good job over there with the union, and I'm hoping to head over there end of this year. But I guess that's a good segue to sort of wrap things up. Is where do you see yourself sort of in the next 5 years? What's your sort of plans? What's your dreams? And where do you see Asian rugby in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, well, I'll go with the last questions. I think, Asia Rugby is, I mean, Asia Rugby itself, the committee, they working extremely hard to grow the game. So I think, especially in sevens rugby, I think it will be. I think it's heading into in a good space. I think there will be a lot more success in future. I won't be, like I said, I won't be surprised if China is on the circuit, and would be good to see Japan, both of them on the circuit, and you can see Thailand is improving. In terms of the 15th game, you can see Japan is always there, with the support from the companies here in Japan, putting a lot of money in, and you can see all the big names coming here. So that's also, growing on itself, promoting the game at school level, and it's huge here, it's big. So I think it's that continuity. It's probably the most important things, after these Olympics, how they can continue that momentum. So I think it's in a good place. Asia Rugby. I think there's a lot of followers. Women's rugby now in Japan is big. The sevens tournament, it's huge. Myself, first things first. I'm here in Nagato, coaching Nagato Blue Angels. We've got 2 tournaments to go. After this year, then I will reflect and review my performance, and also see what's the next step. I definitely want to progress and challenge myself up the next level. But I'll see first how this year goes. Step by step, but definitely that's at the back of my mind to one day on the circuit as well, and the World Series circuit.
Do you see yourself staying in Asia, or perhaps traveling to another continent?
Probably travel to another continent. Yeah, travel to another continent, because there's so much. Learn a lot over here in Asia. Certainly learn heaps. But talent-wise, I'm amazed with the talent that's out there. Like in the African continent and all that part of the world, and even South America, it's huge. They got big human there. So with naturally gifted, good genetic genes. So it's so good. All the things that as a coach, love to have in a sevens team. So that's probably my next step, to try and go there.
Do you miss seeing Kenya on the sevens circuit?
Yeah, definitely. They were really, really good when Mike Friday was with them. And yes, it's definitely, it was so good to see their crowd. I missed that, at the stadium, you seeing them, they're probably one of the loudest one there, apart from the Fijians. The Kenyan crowd is also a good one. So
Yeah.
I really do hope the men's Kenyan team can get back out there. The woman is up and down. The Kenyan women's team, when they want to play, they can actually play.
Yeah.
So it's just finding that right balance of how you can get the best out of them at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, I think Uganda, if I was like thinking about it from a coaching perspective, I think Uganda could be an interesting
Yeah,
prospect.
yeah,
I
yeah,
met,
exactly.
yeah,
Uganda, Tunisia, yeah, all those teams, they're really good, and the game is actually growing there too.
mm,
But it's about, like I said, it's the union. What do they do at the grassroots level to set a good foundation and a platform for them to launch into the big challenge ahead?
yeah, 100%. What, just I know because you got to leave soon. What's your final words or piece of advice for any young player out there that they can take away from this podcast?
Yeah, just first, like listening, listening is probably the best advice I could give anyone. It's don't think, especially nowadays, with all the technology and all the stuff that they watch on YouTube and all of that stuff. So sometimes when you get to meet your coach or an older elder trying to give you information, it's so easy for them to look past that advice. So it's not my thing for them, just a heads up, it's not the advice that just you already know. It's actually the advice that people giving the advice already been there and done that, and they've gone through obstacles, they've gone through many things to help you miss those bad state of your progression. So it's very important to listen, and for me, listening was probably the best thing. I got it quickly. Never think that you know everything. Humble yourself and work hard and expect the unexpected. And yeah, keep working hard, dream big, listen to advice.
Well, I'm definitely going to take that on board for sure over the next few months as we go into the summer. Lotte, I just want to say thank you so much for your time and
Okay.
one for being a fantastic guest, because you being a great guest allows me to ask some good questions and hopefully live up to being a good host. So thank you again for your time. I love talking about rugby, especially in Asia, and it's been fantastic just to dive into your life story and hear about it from yourself. And yeah, I wish you all the best, and I hope everyone listening to this podcast has been able to take some value and learn something new about rugby in Asia. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening, and thank you Lotte for being a part of this.
Thank you, Amish, and thank you, everyone. Cheers.